Welcome to the Random Encounter Show. I'm Deathstalker V, coming in for our weekly episode of Table Talk. Had to take last week off, as many of you know. I've been surrounded by death for several weeks now. The angel of death is hanging around. Yeah, maybe he'll let me stay here for a little while before I go join him. Who knows, right? Who knows? It's been crazy. It's been crazy, but I missed you guys, and I'm glad to be back. I really am. I've got a table full of stuff that I want to talk about and show you guys here. The main part of this episode is going to be dedicated to horror gaming, especially solo RPGs, getting into the spirit of Halloween, my favorite holiday. Yeah, but I've got some other stuff to talk about as well. So make sure you have something to drink, because this may be a very long episode. I don't know. For those of you that are new, this is completely impromptu and script-free. Just a middle-aged gamer hanging around talking about his hobbies, right? Right. All of you that's come in over the last 2 weeks, thanks for joining the Random Encounter Army. This is all of our subscribers. More than happy to have you here. This is a very vibrant and lovely community that we've built here on YouTube. Make sure you check us out over on Facebook. We have the Random Encounter Show Facebook page, and we have the Random Encounter Army group, where you can get more directly involved with the conversations and show your own stuff off and such. Links in the About page of the channel and down below. There will be a lot of links down below probably for this episode. Yeah? But yeah. Where do we even start this off? I think we're going to start this off with some fantasy and sci-fi gaming, right? Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Let's just start off right here. In my hands, I hold probably one of the best, definitely in my top list. If I was to give an arbitrary numbered list of games, I don't know where it would be, but somewhere in the top. Barbarian Prince by Dwarfstar Games. A lot of channels love to talk about this game, but very few actually own it, right? Because nowadays it's pretty rare and it's pretty expensive. I've had this game since the 90s. We've talked about it here and there quite a few times, and we're going to do so again today. Barbarian Prince, I think its claim to fame is that it's a hex crawl RPG board game experience all wrapped up into one. When we say hex crawl, we're talking about a map. This is one I've printed off for Barbarian Prince, much larger than the one in the box. And it combines old school RPG hex crawling with some choose your own adventure style gaming, along with some random table gaming. It has a story, but it's not very linear. All types of things can happen, and this game is notoriously difficult to complete. Yeah? Absolutely love it. One of the ways it's getting more well known today is that Reaper, the miniature company, they bought Heritage USA, which was an older miniatures company. They owned Dwarfstar Games. It was sort of a line of games they had that came out in these size boxes. When they bought this company out, they got the rights to Dwarfstar Games, so they put them on a website as free to print and play style games. So it's an excellent thing that they did, and it allows a lot more people to enjoy games like Barbarian Prince. Now, the reason we're talking about this, we need to do a full review and maybe some gameplay of this at a future date. There's just so much we got to cover, right? But we're putting this on the radar. We'll put a link down below for Barbarian Prince if I can find the website for print and play. It's definitely worth your time. Since we've been talking about it here on this channel, I've had quite a few people reach out and say, wow, I absolutely love this. I can't believe that I've been sleeping on this game. And it's quite natural, because when did this game come out? I believe in 81? Yes, 1981. So, you know, it's not a modern game. It's not in your face all the time, Kickstarter, crazy stuff, whatever. No. But it's absolutely a fantastic game, and very few modern games could even hope to touch this. Yeah, it's just the truth, okay? Arnold Hendrick wrote this game and designed this game, and I bring him up because he also did another game that Heritage produced, which was Swordbearer RPG. We talked about that in our 1990s solo RPG How I Started video. So just fantastic, and we're going to bring Swordbearer back up here in a few minutes. But just a fantastic game designer and a fantastic game. Like I said, we're going to come back to this. There's just so much we have to do around the channel to catch up around here. But Barbarian Prince, it brings up something that we talked about a few weeks ago. And that's when Ken, aka Glow Internal, check out his YouTube channel. Fantastic channel. I'll tag him in this so you guys can go check his channel out. But he actually created, and we looked at it a couple of weeks ago, The Drifter, which is a Western style hex crawl game that is very akin to Barbarian Prince. And I absolutely love it. Ken saw me wearing an Outlaw Josie Wells shirt, so he said, there's a Western genre fan, and I definitely am. So this was just a beautiful book. I loved his writing style and how organized he was when he created this. He also sent us the PDFs for the maps and different things we need to play. Unfortunately, with all the running around and trying to get things done with funerals and memorial services and such, I haven't had a chance to sit down and play this just yet. Yeah? Ken contacted me last week. He said, I've sent you something else. I've sent you Star Drifter. Now, this is hot off the press. He's just published this book. This one, I have to say, is really impressive. I took it along with me to our out-of-town memorial service that we went to this week. Again, very much influenced by Barbarian Prince, but this time with a science fiction genre, or within the science fiction genre. Solitaire adventure game, and I'm going to have to print out, I'm definitely going to have to print out the maps and such for this as well. We will try to get around to getting some gameplay on the channel, but Ken has it over on his. And everything just looks absolutely amazing. Ken did a fantastic job with this. I love the layout and I love the organization. Everything's very easy to find. Everything is clear and well written. So just kudos to Ken on his game design and book publishing. You can find these over on Drive-Thru RPGs. Links below. Yeah? Make sure to use those links. The affiliate links help the show directly. And we need all the help we can get. But I absolutely love this. And I think I might actually look forward to playing this and more than The Drifter. Hard to say. But these style games, they're getting more rare and more rare today. Even though more and more people are discovering hex crawling that weren't around for the old school RPG scene. If you've been around this show, more than likely, you are a veteran of the scene. If not, you've seen me talk about hex crawling in RPGs with maps and such before. It's something that I just can't let go of. It's one of the greatest tools and assets you can have for solo RPG games. But he just did a fantastic job. I can definitely see that it's in the same style as The Drifter along with Barbarian Prince. But I can see a lot of influences and creativity that he's put into this one. Having your own spaceship, having the damage system and such. I was really impressed with this. And it gave me also some vibes of one of my favorite RPGs, especially for solo play, which is Traveler. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I can't wait to get into this. I can't wait. You guys give me too much to do. Who would ever think that I would have so much gaming going on that I had a backlog? Yeah, that's nuts to me. But Star Drifter, I absolutely love it. Like I said, links below. Kudos to Ken, and we appreciate it here from the Fortress of Doom. You guys are just keeping me too busy here with all your wonderful gaming that's coming out. Talking about Traveler, talking about Dwarfstar games. There's another game that I don't see hardly anyone talking about. Another Dwarfstar game, another solitaire game, and that's Star Smuggler. Yeah, it's a science fiction game that's more like a role-playing game than even Barbarian Prince. Yeah, I would actually place this one above Barbarian Prince for my own preferences. Everything's subjective, but it's Star Smuggler, again, Dwarfstar Games, designed by Dennis Sustier. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. I'm sure I am. He also worked on Swordbearer with Arnold Hendrick, if I'm not mistaken. He also did, what, Bunnies and Burrows? I think this is the same guy. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know. I don't do research on this stuff. Like I said, I'm just here talking. This one is a 1982 game. This is also free print to play, and you're going to need to print a whole lot less for this game than you would for Barbarian Prince. If you wanted to know about this game, it's basically Classic Traveler, the RPG, done as a solo game. As a solo RPG. I absolutely love it. We'll definitely have to cover this one as well. Yeah? Yeah. Let Deathstalker 5 get something to drink here. Whew. Still peanut and cotton season here, so the dust is wild. But let's get into the spirit of Halloween. We've only got, what, a little more than a week? And Halloween is here, my favorite holiday. And thinking about Halloween, I started thinking about horror gaming. When it comes to horror gaming, to many people's horror that when they find out, I've never played the main game of horror gaming, which is Call of Cthulhu from Chaosium. I don't know why. I just never got into Call of Cthulhu. I've never owned any of the books and such. I should probably check them out. But that does not mean that I don't enjoy good horror gaming. Most of the time I incorporate it in my fantasy or science fiction games. But sometimes I really enjoy the era of the Lovecraftian mythos as well. And let's talk about H.P. Lovecraft for a second and talk about the mythos around H.P. Lovecraft. Why, out of all horror writers, does it seem that the RPG community focuses a lot on H.P. Lovecraft? Why is that? I think it's the same reason why in fantasy gaming, a lot of people tend to, and have, focused on Tolkien's Middle Earth, our Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. It's that H.P. Lovecraft, while he wrote mainly short stories, compared to like Tolkien and such, he definitely wrote short stories, but a lot of his stories were not novel-length stories. They were short stories. If I can be a little bit redundant here, forgive me. But with all of the short stories, most of them not directly related to any other of the short stories, there was always a background mythos. The Cthulhu mythos, I believe it's called. I'm not a H.P. Lovecraft scholar, okay? I'm not. I'm a fan who's read most of his major works, and I've enjoyed them, but I'm far from a scholar. I'm sure Steve Crompton, Ken St. Andre, Deborah Kerr, any of them, I know they're huge H.P. Lovecraft fans, so they'll be able to correct anything I have to say. Along with a lot of our friends in Japan who watch this show, I know that Call of Cthulhu is one of the biggest if not the biggest RPGs that is played in Japan. But that mythos. That mythos plays through most all of H.P. Lovecraft's works. So what I mean by mythos is that yes, the stories would happen in places like Maine and such places that are like our real world. But in the background, there was the mythos of the elder gods, the old ones, different monsters, if you will, or beings would pop up from story to story. Sometimes characters from other stories would pop up, or tales from other places, or books like a Necronomicon, or Mystonic University, and such. There was this whole mythos that was the common thread in which H.P. Lovecraft crafted his stories and placed them. So in RPG terms, that's very helpful because it gives us a background setting for playing adventures within this mythos. And I think if you were interested in Lovecraftian RPGs, it would behoove you to do like I've done and buy sort of a collection of his major works. This is H.P. Lovecraft Tales of Horror. This comes from Canterbury Classics, I believe. I think I found this on Amazon a couple of years ago. It was not very expensive, maybe $20. Nice leather-bound copy of his major works. Absolutely love them. Absolutely love them. It's that time of year I like to sit down and read through these great stories. But yes, so most all of our horror gaming, you see a lot of Lovecraftian themes and such. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And like I said, if you wanted just a horror-based game, Call of Cthulhu would probably be where you turned. Me, I don't play Lovecraftian stories so much, or Lovecraftian style adventures. Even though I do love them, it's something that, like I said, I sort of let it take place in my fantasy/science fiction games. But I do have some recommendations, for Lovecraftian style RPGs and just horror RPGs in general. When it comes to horror RPGs, there's one single source book that I've never seen outdone. Yeah? It's called Nightmares of Mine. It comes from Iron Crown Enterprises, and it was done in conjunction with Chaosium. Yeah, now this is part of the Rollmaster standard system of books, but it's system agnostic. It's just a full treatment on adding horror of any kind to any of your games, whether it be in science fiction, fantasy, modern, pulp, whatever. Like I said, I've never seen anything that even come close to this. This is very hard to find in print. Yeah? I believe they have it as a PDF. Don't hold me to that because I'm not sure if Chaosium and ICE, I'm not sure with the licenses. If it's available, I will add a link because Iron Crown Enterprises has put most of the standard system now on drive-thru as PDFs. Yeah? But this, like I said, if you're interested in horror gaming of any kind, this is pretty much a must-have. And it's sad that so few people know about this book. I'm telling you. Just fantastic. When it comes more to Lovecraftian stuff, though, I don't have Call of Cthulhu, but I wanted to talk about some things that I use. From the just get-go, I picked up a game earlier this year that I absolutely love. It's the Lovecraft Variant. Yeah? This is available on drive-thru. It comes from Bolt Thrower Press. Thomas Pugh is the guy behind this. And it's for Monsters RPG. Let's see if we can get the focus there. Get sort of an idea of what's going on here. I found this very interesting for a few reasons. First off, where does this come from? This was actually, I believe it was the first, if I'm not mistaken, RPG, tabletop RPG related stuff to Lovecraft. Yeah, I believe this was written in 1980. It was first published in the Sorcerer's Apprentice magazine, which came from Flying Buffalo Incorporated, and it was using the Tunnels and Trolls rules. Philip and Glenn Rahman, two brothers, wrote this, and it was I've got it over there actually in the Sorcerer's Apprentice collection. It was actually, I believe, 2 articles, and it was taking the world of H.P. Lovecraft and playing in that world using Tunnels and Trolls rules. Of course, it's been updated by Thomas to Monsters. Why do I really love this? And what do I do with it? First off, it is basically a RPG fully. You're going to get rules for character creation. You're going to get items, level progression. You're going to get lots of different ideas of what you can do in the game. I like it because when it comes to horror gaming and stuff like Lovecraftian gaming, I'm a fan of doing it in theater of the mind. I'm that way when you're playing the horror, the stuff that the fear, your mind's creating it. So it's much easier to get into it if it's more of a story-based game versus a miniatures game or something on the table. If I know anything about Chaosium, that Call of Cthulhu, I believe, I know the older editions did, but it uses what they call their basic roleplay system, which RuneQuest is on as well. And with that level of detail and depth in the gaming, using miniatures is probably pretty much a must, at least for me, because it's much easier to keep track of all those details if you just use miniatures. But here you get a very abstract system. Abstractness, of course, leads to more of a storytelling game, which in my mind, horror, that's where it belongs, you know? But you're going to get pretty much everything you need out of this core book. The artwork is fantastic. Steve Crompton has made some contributions to the work. So lots of great black and white artwork here that really fits the theme. But what I got most out of this book is the campaign material. It's not a massive book. It's 70 pages. But the campaign material covering some of the old ones and some of the different things you would use as NPCs and monsters and such in a Lovecraft style game within the Cthulhu mythos. I think it's a fantastic resource that gives you just enough to allow you to bring those beings to life in your own game. Yeah? When I use this, I don't actually use the rules from here. There are enough rules here to use. You know, you can buy this, especially if you just wanted to do sort of a one-off gaming for Halloween. You may pick this up, and I think there's 1 or 2 adventures out for it now. I know some of our friends here on the show, they've actually published their own adventure and translated it to English and such for the Lovecraft Variant. So there's 2 or 3 out there, maybe more. Don't hold me to that. I don't own any of those just yet, but maybe you wanted to pick those up, get together with some friends, or get online using Zoom or something, Discord or whatever, and have sort of a more theater of the mind, storytelling based game. This would be absolutely fantastic. One of the problems with those very abstract games, though, comes to me as a solo player. Yeah? This game doesn't help fill in any details to progress the game forward. We'll get into all this kind of stuff when we talk about solo RPGs in depth very soon. But for me, I need a little bit more detailed system to power how I play my solo RPGs. And I think there's nothing more natural than Flying Buffalo Incorporated's on Mercenaries, Spies, and Private Eyes. I absolutely love this RPG system. I know it doesn't get a lot of talk on the internet. I know it's out of print. But that doesn't mean that it has extraordinary prices like Tunnels and Trolls all of a sudden is getting. Yeah. But this, I love this. It's a It's an RPG that covers everything from primitive firearm era kind of stuff, all the way to modern day, even into science fiction. This is the combined edition, or maybe you could think of it as a deluxe edition, that brings all the, Steve Crompton and Rick Loomis worked on this and launched it as a Kickstarter, I believe in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Luckily, I was around for that one. But this is, when it comes to pulp gaming, our spy games, our private eye games, that kind of stuff, this is sort of my go-to. I absolutely love it. It has a lot in common with Tunnels and Trolls to a certain point. This game has a lot more depth involved in Tunnels and Trolls, though. Your character development, skills, all this kind of stuff, it all comes into play. Absolutely love it. It's a hidden gem in the RPG world. Yeah, I hate even using that term, but that's what it is. But using the material from this book, along with stuff straight out of Lovecraft's own works, combined with the Mercenary, Spies, and Private Eye rules, I really love running this. Yeah, but that's not the only system that I'll use for running this style game. There's a sister game to Castles and Crusades called Amazing Adventures. I've just got sort of the core book here. There's plenty to it. A new edition or a new printing or whatever Troll Lord Games is going to do for this is right around the corner, so I'm not sure of the availability of this first edition set. For a while there, they had this on sale for an amazing price, and I snatched up all the material for it because I love the Siege engine. If you're used to Dungeons and Dragons, if you're used to Castles and Crusades, this game is analog to it. It's a class and level system. It uses the Siege engine. It modifies some of the rules for Castles and Crusades, and a lot of them are optional, but this brings it into the Victorian pulp steampunk kind of era. Great for Lovecraft style, storytelling and RPGs. But absolutely love this. We will cover this in full as well once we do that Castles and Crusades deep dive that's going on in the background around here. Again, the artwork's lovely, and this game is a little more open when it comes to the genre than Mercenary, Spies, and Private Eyes. This one seeks sort of more of a real world kind of thing, which I actually like. This one's a little bit more open. Even though this one, there's sections for using science fiction, there's sections on how to use Call of Cthulhu style terror and whatnot. It's just a little more realistic in scope. So both of them are very enjoyable, and I would run either one. But for the most part, I stick to Mercenary, Spies, and Private Eyes. Now, when it comes to the horror and the Lovecraft style games, I do have this from Sandy Peterson, I believe. Yes, and a few other, Lynn Willis and Mike Mason. And it's published by Chaosium itself. It's S. Peterson's Field Guide to Lovecraftian Horrors. Absolutely love this book. It's a fantastic resource to have, and is system agnostic to adding different beings from the Lovecraftian Cthulhu mythos. Absolutely love it. I love the illustrations. That's very helpful because the way H.P. Lovecraft wrote his stories, that there were very vague descriptions of a lot of the monsters, and that helped with the horror. But seeing sort of how others have fleshed these monsters out, at least for gaming, it's helpful for me because when I want to stat these creatures and I want to add them to my game, it's just great having this reference to use. So this is another one. Hopefully it's still available. It's been in my collection for a while now. But I've used it to great success with mixing my different systems and different tools and such that I use. So definitely be on the lookout for the S. Peterson's Field Guide to Lovecraftian Horrors. Yeah, If I find a link to it, maybe on Amazon or something, I will add it below. Another resource I love to pull from, and even though Lovecraftian stories are normally set, you know, in the late 1800s to the early 1900s, I prefer actually to use a different era for my gaming. And it's because of this series right here. Let's just go ahead. Kolchak the Deathstalker. This is the DVD set. Yeah? I've always loved Kolchak the Deathstalker. I love all the different tales and things he done. It reminds me a lot of the Lovecraft stories. This is set, I believe, mostly in the 60s, maybe early 70s. Absolutely love it. There's several movies and stuff out. Kolchak is a newspaper. He works for the newspaper. And he's not necessarily supposed to be out investigating supernatural events and monsters and all that, but he always ends up there. Absolutely. This is definitely worth the watch if you find it streaming, if you can find the DVDs or whatever. It's just the right mood for me and the right style for some RPG gaming ideas and such. So definitely check this out. I'm a huge fan. And my games, even though I pull a lot from Lovecraft, they probably more resemble Kolchak in nature. Especially because I don't do a lot of heavy gaming in the Lovecraftian style games or horror gamings. That I'll bring those elements into my other games from time to time. So when it comes to things like my gaming, they resemble Kolchak a lot because it's just a lot of different one-off adventures. Absolutely love it. Now, when it comes to solo play of these games, I have a lot of different tools. I have a library of published solo RPG tools that I get inspiration from mostly. I mostly craft my own tools catered to specifically the game I'm going to play at the time. Oftentimes while I'm playing, I'll need some information and I will literally create the tool on the fly. Maybe a D6 dice chart or such. But when it comes to Call of Cthulhu, in the Investigator style, which is my favorite because even though I don't play a lot of pulp, I absolutely love the gumshoe scene of the early 20s and 30s and 40s. With Marlowe, you know, Philip Marlowe and all those characters and such. Love those movies and books as well. But I found this one right here, and I'll put a link down below. It's the Solo Investigator's Handbook, a comprehensive method for solo Call of Cthulhu by Paul Bilmer. Yeah? Now, it's for Call of Cthulhu, but most of the material and most of the tools you'll find inside this book readily apply just to any RPG system you want to use to power your games. But I find a lot of tools in here very useful. If I don't find it immediately useful, I normally find it useful down the road somewhere. And of course, we might just modify several of the tools here. But I absolutely love the approach from the beginning to the end in this book of how you get information, of when events take place, etc. So absolutely love it. Some great tools here. Like I said, when I combine them with other tools that I use, this actually makes a very comprehensive horror detective style story, which is probably one of the most difficult as a solo gamer. So this is definitely recommended if you want to get into this style game. It starts from the very beginning, giving you information, giving you campaign material, where things are happening at, what your character can see, smell, hear. That's very important for horror gaming, because how does a lot of fear start when it comes to the unknown? It's because maybe only one of our senses are able to interpret data based on the monster. What I mean by, is a weird way to say it, but you know, maybe it's very dark outside and you can hear something large and it sounds like with hooven feet stomping through the forest. You hear the leaves crushing, but you can almost feel the stomping. So you know it's a huge creature, much bigger than a deer or a cow or something. You know, it's the ability for your what you perceive basically with your perceptions. I don't know where I'm going with this. Where am I going? What am I trying to say here? I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. This is the problem with doing a script-free show, right? So let's think about how we can rephrase that about fear. Yeah? Your senses, your sight, hearing, smelling, the only having one or two of those able to perceive something leads to fear. That's what I was trying to say. You know, where if you can hear something in the dark, that can be sort of scary if you cannot see it. But think about if you could smell something, like you were out in a forest or you were in a basement or something, and you couldn't hear nor see anything, but you could smell blood. You know, that very metallic, coppery, irony kind of smell of blood or something. I don't know. That's some spooky stuff. Maybe you don't sense anything with your physical senses. Maybe all the hair on the back of your neck stands up. Unless you're bald-headed like me. But you guys know what I mean, right? Help me along here. Help me. But yeah, I absolutely love that it has some solo tools that pertain to the senses. Again, this is a very helpful solo tool to go along with more of a theater of the mind storytelling game. And I know I keep talking about that, but I like to reiterate it. When it comes to horror, that's the best place for it to be. Think about being a child. Maybe, I don't know, in my childhood, one of our favorite things to do when there were children around, maybe we were spending the night together, maybe we were out camping or something, but it was turning maybe all the lamps off or sitting around a campfire. And it was just natural for us to start telling scary stories. Yeah? And we would share those stories and we would freak one another out. The storytelling, you would get into it to the point where maybe somebody shook a tree branch, or somebody scratched across a wall or something, and it would just terrify you. Yeah, it happens to me when I watch horror movies. When I was a kid, we talked about how E.T. scared me, and then how the Transformer outside when I watched Chucky exploded in the night of terror that I had, right? Yeah, it just used to be that. You get yourself in the mind frame of horror through storytelling, and you can produce some mental fear, I promise you. You can sit down and talk about something that's spooky, and then something non-expected happens, and that you can't perceive it with your physical senses other than maybe hearing it or smelling it or something. Maybe you just see it. And it's spooky. It's spooky. I don't know, guys. I don't know. But when it comes to it, I absolutely love this one. Now, does it provide everything you're possibly going to need for solo gaming? It can. It can. Depends on how deep you're going to go. But I think something like these combined up will serve anybody for some great horror gaming, some great storytelling. If you wanted something more in-depth, I would definitely look at Call of Cthulhu and such. Me, I'm just happy playing these games every once in a while. There's nothing that's going to compete doing this with a group. There's nothing that's going to compete that if the game master can actually get the players to jump. Yeah, I love it. But as a solo gamer, you can do a whole lot to make yourself jump. Put on some spooky sound effects. Put on some candles. Do whatever it takes. And just let the story tell itself. Don't try to guide it. Just let it go. Yeah, I don't know. We'll get more into solo RPG and more into horror solo RPG in the future. We're going to do it in great detail around here. But these are just some great suggestions. Since we're in the spirit of Halloween around here, I'm talking about some fun ways to do some horror gaming, especially as a solo player. Anyways, I am backed up on painting out the yazoo. Yeah? I've got to talk to a guy here in a little while who has a massive Citadel, what we call Old Hammer, our 1980s, early 90s Games Workshop miniatures. He's got a massive collection he's looking to hire a commission painter on. And I'm thinking about taking it up because I absolutely love painting those old Citadel miniatures anyways. But we're getting way behind on the painting, so that's something we got to catch up on. And I'm going to see you guys before Halloween. And I know there's quite a few of you here that's for Intellivision and classic video gaming and such. I've got a big treat for you next week when we take a look at my favorite of all time Halloween video game. Yeah? I'll see you guys there. I appreciate all of you subscribers and all of the people that's shown great support during the last few weeks when I've had so much going on. Anyways, I've said anyways enough. I'll see you guys next time here on the Random Encounter Show. Hey, this is Deathstalker V. I wanted to thank you for watching the Random Encounter Show. If you love tabletop gaming, solo RPGing, or classic video games, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. If you want more of the show, head over to our channel's About page. There you will find our Facebook and Facebook group pages where you can join in on the fun. Want to help support the show? Make sure to use our affiliate and sponsor links next time you're shopping for your favorite gaming products. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time when we roll for Random Encounter.